all the things they taught me about in college, about getting a job, that were wrong. Just straight wrong. I'm Amanda Zimmerman. I'm a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt, and I've been helping organizations make their processes better for the last decade. In this video, I really just want to talk about, though, how I started my career path and the things that I was told that I could never do that were completely wrong. Okay, so let's talk about some of those things that we tell people when they're students, when they're in college, that are wrong. So the first thing that I want to address is you can never get that job. That job is too hard. There's too many people interested in it. They're never going to get that job. When I was in college, I went to school for history. And as I worked on my bachelor's, I changed my mind a bunch, selected history. I first wanted to be a marine biologist, but I lived like 3 hours from the ocean, so definitely couldn't do that. I lived in California, Central California, so, it was way too far from the ocean. Those good schools probably never would have taken me. I mean, was I pretty enough? Was I smart enough for that? Come on. Those are all the things that I used to think about that. Now I look back, I lived 3 hours from the best universities probably for marine biology. Some of the best universities that I could have gone to. I certainly could have found ways to get into those universities. Now I've gone from having a degree from CSUB, Cal State University of Bakersfield, to having an MBA from one of the top-ranked universities in the world, Imperial College of London. So I know now that all of that was ridiculous. If you have that goal in mind, if you have that school in mind, there are paths to that. It might not be easy. It might require a lot of sacrifice, but there are paths to that. So don't get stuck in this "I don't live near it" kind of attitude. People in all kinds of cities all over the world are making this happen. So I started off, though, that was a bit of a tangent. It's relevant, but I started off wanting to mention, though, the jobs that they say that you can't get. In the same way that I had those self-limiting beliefs that I can't go to college for the thing that I want. So I didn't do marine biology, also because chemistry, that was going to be too hard. I would never pass chemistry. So that's what I decided. So you know what? I never passed chemistry and I never became a marine biologist. And instead I started down the path of history. And once I jumped into history, I realized that I don't know that I really want to be a teacher. I'd much rather work at a museum. Great idea. Or as a librarian. Awesome. These sound great. So I went ahead and I researched both of those jobs, and I found out that most librarians require a master's degree and that our museum isn't hiring and hasn't hired in a while in my town that I lived in Bakersfield. And so I didn't do it. I didn't work at a museum and I didn't become a librarian because I heard that it was hard to get those jobs. And I heard that the librarian job required more degrees than I had, or that I was going to get. Now, looking back, I have a friend now who's an international school teacher who's worked as a librarian. I don't believe he has his master's in library studies. There's a million pathways to these opportunities, and we don't have to feel like just because they're hard or just because somebody else said the job was going to be hard to get, that they're completely off the table for us. Now, I grew up in a town called Bakersfield, California, and in that place, I thought I could never work in a museum because the one museum was, staffed up. So I could never do this. How could I ever do that? Now I'm volunteering in a little museum in the middle of rural New Zealand, right? So those opportunities, we never know where life is going to go. And what's most important is that we're open to those, right? So I could have reached out, networked with more people in the museum field and found some of those opportunities. Maybe being open to move away from my city would have really opened up those opportunities for me. If I wanted to be a librarian, maybe I could find certifications that made me more qualified, that were less expensive and easier to get. So those are two things that really in college, nobody ever told me the value of networking and certifications or smaller types of programs that you can do that are less expensive that help to make you qualified in a specific industry. So those are the things that I never learned in college that I wish someone would have told me at the time, that all these things are achievable, that I could do all of this. It's certainly possible. It doesn't matter. For me, one of the things I was worried about was, am I pretty enough? Am I smart enough? I don't know if I could ever do this. So it doesn't matter. None of that matters. None of that matters. What matters is that you have the interest and the persistence towards that goal, and you will find a pathway to achieve your dreams.